faster, healthier, better.
Well, Zach, I appreciate you spending the time with us today. We did a lot of fun stuff. We smashed some weights. We threw up some numbers. That's not bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a good time.
That was a ton of fun, man.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. I'm excited for you guys to see it. And then we did our Q&A with the ice bath.
Yes.
How was that?
It's cold.
Yeah, but very cold.
I like it.
But it was fun. So welcome to the Get Alpha Mindset podcast. You're our first episode of season 3, so I appreciate you coming on, taking the time today. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Zach. I am the co-founder and CEO of Northern Raised. Mm-hmm. Outside of Northern Raised, I am a father, a guy that's passionate about living life, I think, in line with purpose. Is a big sort of mantra for me. I'm a guy that connects deeply with nature, with himself, with movement, but the things that we did today is a real great definition of what my perfect day looks like, right? It's time with really good quality people, spending time investing in my health. And that's there's a lot that makes up who I am, but I think at the core of it, individual that wants to get to know himself better and always try to push to find that. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. So usually on our podcast, we have a person bring in their favorite beverage, and you suggested this. So tell me a little bit about this.
I gotta shout out Zero DB. So a friend of mine, Gary, he is the founder of this. So I'm not gonna do the sales pitch quite as well as
that's okay. We'll get him on the podcast.
No, this is honestly one of my kind of go-to quiet the noise drinks. So nootropic. I'm not an energy drink guy, right? Yeah. We talked a little bit about caffeine and stuff, and so this to me is a perfect alternative, something that when I want to drop into a state of focus, there's just a bunch of great things in here that help me do that. So that's my drink of choice.
I love it. I see some nootropics. You have, I think I saw echinacea in here.
Yeah, licorice root, echinacea, cacao extract, houblon. I don't even know what houblon is, but
that's fine. All right, let's open it up. Cheers, brother.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Okay, let's see. That's really nice. That's really light, actually.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Do they only have one flavor?
No. This is one of a line of, I believe, 4 to 5 different drinks, and they have energy versions of this, and they have, I think, an electrolyte version or something like that.
Sweet.
Zero DB.
We'll get a couple here for the gym.
Yes.
I love it. Okay.
Beautiful.
So I really want to dive into how did you get into having the business that you have now with the Northern Raised Meats?
Yeah.
So did you always want to open up a business? What was your path when you were younger?
Yeah, good question. I think the story of Northern Raised and how I became, a business owner, or how the business materialized, it's been my personal healing journey and my personal story. So if we go back, about a decade, I had, a decade-long career in corporate America. And I spent a lot of my days climbing what I thought was the ladder to success, and the name on the business card, and the things, the titles, the things that mattered to me. And so after a lengthy career there, I found myself in a place where I was physically, spiritually, emotionally burnt out. And I hit a really low point, really a rock bottom for myself, where, I came to this realization that the ladder that I had climbed was not serving so many other aspects of who I was as an individual. And so that left me in a place where my mental health was destroyed. My physical health was destroyed. I spent several years, living out of hotel rooms and airports, and that was, just my life on the road. Right. And so, for me, that was sort of this moment where I had to find a way to redefine what health meant to me. And specifically for my mental health to, come out of this place where, I was struggling with crippling anxiety. And I was fortunate to be a high functioning individual that could, kind of keep it together externally, but internally I was dying. Right. And so that led me down this path of coming to, I think, what you would realize and recognize as baseline stuff now, but movement, breath, nutrition, and just kind of resetting that baseline for myself. And the thing that kept coming up for me was that when I was more conscious and more intentional about what I was consuming and what I was eating, the better my health improved. And that sounds like the most obvious thing to say, right? Like,
yeah, but it's sometimes like the most simple things are like the most direct that people overlook.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, like common sense is just not that common anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I understand that 100%.
Yeah. And it was really that process of you're absolutely right. Like it was that process of coming back to the basics, to the common sense that led me down this road of really healing myself. And as I said, the more that I paid attention to where my food was coming from, where or what food I was putting in my body, I got curious about where my food was coming from, right? And that led me down a path of wanting to find the highest quality food that I could along this healing journey for myself, and then an extension, my family and my community. And so I started meeting local farmers. I started investing in as much time and effort as I could to, find out where the source of my food came from, and did a huge deep dive to learn all of the things. And as you do, as the, almost the excitement of the newly converted, you want to share that out. And so I was, sharing that with friends and family and kind of my immediate community. I'm saying, guys, like here's a source for a chicken provider or a grass-fed beef provider. And I would, buy a half a cow at a time and distribute that with some friends and family, buy, a bunch of chickens and do the same. And so I give all that kind of backdrop to, kind of create the playing field of where Northern Raised came from, right? And so it came from really this idea that I had in my mind that if I could be a more conscious consumer, if I could connect with the source of my food, if I could consume the most naturally raised, proteins and whole foods that I could ingest, that I would be able to heal myself. And I believe that others have that access too, that we can heal ourselves through the food that we consume, being intentional consumers, conscious consumers. And that's where Northern Raised was born, right? It was born out of that idea to say, I think that we can bring that level of quality, access, transparency, really, I think, reshape what is a broken system, and we can do that by connecting people with their personal well-being.
That's amazing. And so how long have you had the business for?
Yeah, so officially 3 years, and then I would say unofficially, as I would share with friends and family, it's been going for a couple of years longer than that.
So what are some like things you just didn't like, some ropes you learned to trying to open up this business that you had? Like the beginning, you're like, okay, I didn't know I can do it like that, or like I have to do like I'm sure there's some red tape always in certain situations, right?
Yeah, I mean, the lessons learned along the path of opening up a business or starting a business, there's no podcast that is long enough to take them all. You would know that better than anybody, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like it was a really interesting process to go through, understanding how we can connect and tell stories really well, and how we can be really good storytellers, and how I can take what is a really heartfelt message for me and something that resonates really deeply, and then turn that into a consumer product of some sort, right? So like, how can you interact as Norm? How can you show up and interact with Northern Raised as a brand and feel what I feel, right? And how can I bring an experience to you that I had, right? This experience of healing myself. How can I bring that to your front door, right? And so I think the most interesting parts, or the parts that I got most excited about, and the most challenging parts, are how to do that well, right? And how to convey that in a 12 by 12 farm box that arrives at your door. What experience do you have in that, right? And how can I be a really good storyteller and a really good steward of this message of health and vitality through food? And so I mean, there's a million like little small stories of all the things that we had to do to create that, and the iterations and the failures, and and we're constantly still evolving that, right? And I think maybe that's kind of what has shown up for me most interestingly is just the constant reminder that we are never a finished product, right? We are constantly evolving. we have a core set of values that drives everything that we do, and we try to maintain our alignment with that, and our alignment kind of with the broader purpose of the business. And again, that where my heart resonates in terms of helping me connect with with people's well-being through the food that they're consuming. But we continue to evolve as we learn and grow. And so I think, for us, it's a matter of being really malleable as a business and saying, hey, like, we're going to stay in that learner's mind, right? As to how we can constantly keep evolving this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you choose? So, because you work with different farms, right?
Yes.
So how do you choose what farms you work with? Can I ask that?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a huge part of our ethos. So, to give you the Coles nuts on it, we sort of formulate 4 different questions.
Okay.
So our core tenets are natural, sustainable, ethical, and local. And so you can ask each one of those as a question. Is your food natural? Is your food sustainable? Is your food ethical? And is your food local? Right? And so we have some criteria on each one of those pillars, right? That we look for farmers that are raising animals in a natural environment, raising animals with a species-specific diet without the use of hormones and additives in their food. We look for the sustainability of their operation, right? The food miles that are involved in the transportation of their food to and from processors to, our distribution to your front door, right? We're looking for farmers that are using regenerative practices within the farm, right? Are they growing food within the land that they have to produce to then feed the livestock? Are they invested in regenerative agriculture practices that can support the sustainability of meat production?
Yeah.
From an ethical perspective, are they treating these animals well, right? Are the animals living in a species-specific environment? Are we giving animals proper outdoor access? Are we, ensuring a level of care even right up to the end of life that, cares for the animals? And then the locality of food, right? Making sure that, the people that we're supporting are truly in our backyard. And that, we're not reliant on, global supply chains, imports, and all the rest of it, right? So that's kind of how we think about the general pillars of how we source and the farmers that we work with. We're very, very grateful to have some amazing people that we work with along the way. But we ask ourselves those questions. And I think those are questions that can kind of transcend our business. And I love to, I hope that people ask those questions as well when they're walking down the aisles of a grocery store, asking questions about, is this natural? Is this single ingredient real food?
Well, that's why I want to ask you, to be honest, I don't those kind of questions. I personally don't know what to ask. As a consumer, I love steak. I love all that meat, but I truly don't know what to ask for. So what are things people should be aware of when they're walking in the grocery store?
Yeah. Oh man.
Just a couple.
Yeah. I don't want to. For sure. No. I think we can go down the hierarchy, right? So number one, let's avoid ultra processed foods, right? So let's just take that off the table, right? The more that we can avoid ultra processed food, the better, right? So jumps us down to single whole food, real ingredient, single ingredient food, right? Specifically when it comes to meat, I think there's a couple of things that people can ask for when they're looking, in the grocery store. I think you're looking for where that food is coming from, right? This is a very hard one to find, and maybe the most challenging if you're in any of the larger conventional big box grocery stores, but to really know where that food comes from. You can go to the extent of asking, what the animals are fed and, getting into a bit of a deep dive on the various proteins and what, a species specific diet should look like for each type of animal and the environment that they are raised in. The unfortunate reality, though, is that information is not readily available. And
I was going to ask, some people in grocery stores, maybe they don't even, the employees, I should say, they're not even told that information.
No.
Right.
No.
So if you ask them, they're just, I'm sorry, man, I don't know.
Yeah. You're gonna get I don't know more than you will anything else, right? And so then you start to need to start asking the question about okay, how do I find those answers? This is the work that I did. And so whether you turn to a Northern Raised, whether you connect with a local butcher, or whether you go to the farm itself, right? I think as consumers, we need to change. If we want answers to those questions, we need to change our consumption habits, right? Costco is not going to tell you which farm your chicken breast came from, right? Kirkland Farms or whatever. So if that matters to you, if you want answers to those questions, I think you have to step a little bit outside of and redefine and rethink about how you're consuming food and where your food is coming from.
Okay.
And that's where you're going to find the answers to those questions, right?
Okay, that's not. And is there like anywhere like somebody should look, like a website? Do you guys provide that on your website? Like what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that is really, it's a part of what Northern Raised does, right? We are a connection tool, right? So for Northern Raised, when you order from a farm, you know exactly which farm you order from. It doesn't get.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It doesn't get.
So you not only give, you try to educate as much as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's my job to tell the stories of the farmers that you're purchasing from, right? So you go online and you will see that your chicken breast comes from farm A and your strip loin comes from farm B and your fish comes from farm C. Like you will see exactly who we source from. You don't take my word for it. Go talk to them, right? Like, you get direct access to those farms, see how they raise their animals. Yeah. Along the way, I'm going to help you in that process. I'm going to,
sure.
I've done that a lot of that vetting, on your behalf. But yeah, that's such a huge core of what we do is to try to answer some of those questions for people coming in the door and providing the trust and transparency that you're not going to get walking through the aisles of Loblaws.
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How many farms do you work with? And like, is it a broad scale or?
Right now we have 12 partner farms.
And it's all within Canada?
All within Ontario. Oh, yeah, all with the exception of our wild-caught salmon comes from a sustainable fishery in BC. If you're getting Pacific salmon anywhere in Ontario, it might not be Ontario.
No? Okay. We're duly noted.
Yeah. So yeah, wild-caught fish comes from BC, but everything else is roughly within about 150-kilometer radius of the GTA. Wow. Yeah, so focused very heavily on locality.
Really try to help out the local then when it comes to the farm. I love that.
Yeah.
And then we can look up his website. I just want to see it's kind of stuff you provide.
Yeah.
So where would I look for the boxes that you guys have? So the products?
You can jump to products. Yeah, that would be a good place to start. And
if somebody is just trying to like try it out, do you guys have like a certain box that's like?
We have lots of different prefixed boxes. We also have a template generator inside that you'll be able to submit your kind of dietary preferences.
Oh, really?
And it will suggest a box for you. It'll kind of build it yourself. Or the beauty of it and what we encourage people to do is go and build a fully customized box, right? Like that's a big part of what we want to offer is, customization to be able to allow you to, pick and choose the items that you're going to consume. And we have among the multitude of problems that we have with our current food system, we have a huge amount of food waste, right? So we have close to 50% food waste in Canada. And so...
Oh, yep. Bone broth.
100%. Yeah. So bone broth comes from an amazing friend of ours, Justin LaRue. He has got an amazing line of gut healing bone broths. The hot chocolate bone broth.
Is it good?
Dude, next level. Yeah. Okay, organic cacao infused beef broth. It's next level. Yeah.
Bad, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And then you provide do you provide eggs too?
Absolutely.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So we'll go down a little bit further, Stacey. So what are your personal favorites?
So I enjoy red meat. I think probably my favorite cut of meat is probably a strip loin steak. But like to me it's just good quality staple foods, right? Yeah. So your ground meats, your whole chickens, things that can feed an army and don't cost an arm and a leg, right? Like I mean that's to me makes up the core of the food that I consume. And then obviously there's the fun stuff on top, right? So we've got, you can get some bison meat and try that out, or you can get some, scallops or
do you hunt?
I do not. I fish, but I don't hunt.
That surprises me.
I would love to.
I feel like you're a hunter.
I would love to. It's something that I've definitely had my mind.
Maple bacon broth too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's next level, man.
All right, I gotta try it. So with everything on the website, that you also put the farms too, right?
Yes.
Oh, so that's pretty sweet that you can like really just look up where it's coming from, like you said.
Yep.
and the exact farm. Are you looking to expand more? Do you have like a certain amount, like a number that you only want to work with, like only 20, like let's say less than 20 farms, or are you willing to expand?
No, I mean, as our business grows, we're gonna grow to to meet that demand. The cool thing, and we ask ourselves this question about like, is this scalable, right? Like, is working with small farmers scalable? And the question I think needs to be reframed in that we're not looking for scalability of farms. We're looking for replicability. So my goal here is to create a market for a small scale farmer to be able to show up and plug into our world and sell their products.
Yeah.
I don't need a large scale farm to do that at scale. I need lots of little farmers that we're incentivizing. And if we can change the way that our current food economy works so that we are incentivizing small local producers to create a market that you and I can access through an e-commerce platform, I think that's the way that we're going to redefine and reshape what is today a broken food system. And so that's the hope with Northern Raised, is that we can create that platform that doesn't rely on the mass production and mass scale of some large factory farm. We can go to smaller independent producers, and we can do that over and over and over again, and be able to source that on people's behalf.
Okay. We talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but you said like a broken food system. Like what do you not like about it?
So I think our food system is broken. I think our food system is broken by design. We have outsourced the production, distribution, and even the consumption of our food to some of the largest food conglomerate and food producing marketing companies effectively in human history. And I think that if you look at our society at large, the consequence of that is we have been left sick, tired, and hungry. We have close to 50% of our population in North America suffering from an underlying disease. And so the kingpins of those being, your heart disease, autoimmune, diabetes, and all of those are directly correlated to diet, right? Diet playing a huge factor in a number of those, in those diseases. And so when you think about that food system at large, you realize that the brokenness of that is by design. It does not serve a profit-driven organization to have you feel full and not come back for more. We live in an ultra consuming economy, right? Where I need to incentivize you based on a quick sugar hit from your box of cereal to come back and buy another one, right? And so I think at the core of that, that broken system has,
wasn't something on the food pyramid wasn't like Lucky Charms on the food? Was it? Am I mixing something?
No,
up?
I know what you're referring to. It was a study that was done that added Lucky Charms, and Lucky Charms placed higher than ground beef, I believe, on the food pyramid.
That's ridiculous.
Wild, yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, again, like when we go back to the design, when you look at how the lobbying and the approvals of what gets moved into our food system, it is follow the money, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Follow the money, and you'll understand, why we've come to this place now where we're sick, tired, and hungry, right? And so I think that the antidote to that is to, go back and take control of what you're consuming, and to change the consumer mindset, to change the overconsumption mindset, and to have a conscious connection with your food, right? It is challenging to overconsume when you consciously consume, right? If we sit down with a bag of Doritos, it would be no problem. It wouldn't be a thing for you and I to finish that and not blink an eye. But if we sat down with 2 great grass-finished steaks, we would enjoy them, we would feel full, and we'd appreciate that meal, right? Whereas
that's true.
That bag of chips, man, that could turn into 2. And you and I could definitely down 2 bags of chips,
100%.
And so it's so interesting to me that when you have a conscious connection with your food, all of a sudden you don't need to overconsume, and you're left feeling full and satiated, and you've connected with something within yourself too. You leave that meal feeling empowered, energetic. You know, you're not chasing.
You're fueling yourself too.
Absolutely, man.
Right? So-
Absolutely. Food is energy.
Yeah.
Food is energy. Yeah. And we need to respect the energy of food and utilize it as it's designed biologically, you know, for us to thrive, right? Fueling workouts like we just did, right?
Yeah.
You know, rather than chasing the next sugar high down the road. And so that in and of itself, I think, is just one of the ways that our food system is broken.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with you. So if a person at home, if they just want to start just like eating better or like getting rid of that sugar stuff, what would the first steps you would like give to them to try to like balance their nutrition a little bit better, balance their food? What are the first steps for them to like change their life in a positive way when it comes to their food consumption?
That's a beautiful question. So I think the number one thing for me is awareness. Okay, so everything has to start with awareness before we can look at behavior change, and before we, you know, choose one diet versus the next or whatever. We have to bring a level of awareness. So are you a conscious consumer? When you sit down and look at the food on your plate, do you have a connection with it? Have you taken the time to...
Sorry, when you say connection with it, like, what do you mean by that?
Connection can happen at a couple of different levels. I think at the very highest level, there is just a pure state of awareness, right? When I look at my plate, do I know what is on my plate? Have I mindlessly pulled the next thing out of the freezer and thrown something in the oven? I think that's a lot of our culture right now, is like, it's just on the go. If I asked you what you ate, you know, 3 meals ago, would you be able to tell me? Like, a lot of people, I'm sure, wouldn't. They'd be like, well, did I stop for fast food today? Did I grab Tim Hortons today? Like, I can't
Burger
remember.
King? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Like, and it will just, because you don't have any type of connection to what you're consuming or an awareness in that, it will just blow past you like any other mindless act. Right. So to begin, it's like, take a stock of your fridge. Do you know what's there? You know, can you name all the foods that are in your fridge? And then I think it's a process of finding the thing that serves you, right? And in this case, it would be, you know, consuming the majority of single ingredient whole foods, and then falling in love with that thing, right? And understanding how it serves you at a deeper level. So, you know, to answer your question, I think number one is awareness. Okay. There are lots of different tools to how to gain awareness, whether you pull out an app on your phone and you take, you know, just a bit of a stock of what you've eaten, right?
You mean like MyFitnessPal, like tracking, or you mean just...
Sure, I mean, sure.
Or just like a notes, like, hey, I ate this and this.
I would bet you, Norm, that if you asked, you know, 10 people just to simply write down the things, just ingredient by ingredient or item by item, what they consumed in a week, it would blow people's minds when they step back and looked at it. Yeah. And then we can get to levels like, you know, macros. You can use a MyFitnessPal or something that is, you know, more performance based and has, you know, is goal oriented. That, you know, that becomes a highly individualized, you know, process of, hey, what are we trying to achieve at a certain, you know,
a little bit more,
biological
tracked.
Yes. Yeah, and they're great too. That's a great level of awareness to bring when you're, you know, kind of dialing it at that granular level. But, you know, I'm talking about just like baseline. Hey, did you knock off, like, you know, the basic check marks of eating real food today, or was most of your diet made up of ultra processed food and stops at the fast food restaurant, right?
Well, the thing is too, like with your gut health. Like your gut health it's so important, and then like you know, they call it your second brain, right? So a lot of people, when they clean up their gut with all the garbage that they eat, they actually find that maybe they are like a little bit happier, right? Or maybe they can increase their dopamine in like a positive way. So it's like a little process things like that. Like it attaches to it, it ruins it for sure.
Food is information. What we consume informs the rest of how we exist, right? And this was my personal experience. The more that I changed the information that I was putting into my gut and in extension my entire body, the more I was healing my mental health, the more my body was physiologically changing. I was literally restructuring my physical biology to heal myself.
Yeah.
Right. This is the power of food that I don't know if people fully grasp, right? The food that you put into your body informs the rest of your body's actions and your body's ability to thrive or lack thereof, right? And so if people can bring awareness to that process and respect food for the information that it's inputting, then it's no surprise that when you take a stop at Tim Hortons on the way home and you grab a donut along with your coffee, and you're wondering why you can't keep up with your kids at night because by 5 o'clock you're like nodding off and hitting the couch, you have informed your body to crash, right? You have given it a dump of sugar to say in an hour from now, we will need to shut down because, blood glucose is spiked, insulin arrives on the scene, and all of a sudden the body needs to shut down to regulate. That is the information that you've provided it versus, hey, I grabbed some carrots and some hummus, single ingredient foods, right? And your body is now informed to say, okay, we need to produce energy, right? We need a healthy complex carb source. We need some protein to rebuild, right? Some fats to provide some energy and some fuel. And all of a sudden now you're showing up as a better version of whatever, thing is later on in your day, using that food as that information.
It's crazy too, because some people, once they start like taking it back, like the sugar and stuff like that, like I have a buddy who's like, hey, like, it's funny because out of all my friends, I'm the only one who works out. So it's like really weird because like my life is so much about like healthy lifestyle in general. But took away sugars and stuff like that. And like, it's so, as you just said, it's so normal to go to Tim Hortons, get a large regular, and it's normal. They made it normal to get a donut for breakfast. And like, I mean, I love a good donut, but like for breakfast, it just makes zero sense. But they normalize it like a box of Timbits. And like, okay, I'll bring it to the office and stuff like that. And it's crazy that once you start cutting it out, your body actually starts like it's almost like you're addicted to it. You start craving it a little bit more, like a person addicted to cigarettes almost. It's wild.
Sugar is the most powerful drugs on this planet.
100%.
People have to grasp this. Like, sugar is a drug. It should be a class 1 drug. It should be a class 1 scheduled drug. The effect that it has on us, right? And 100% culturally, we've normalized that, right? And it's so interesting that people will be very quick to judge we have to call eating real food a diet, right? If you go out with your friends and you were to order just, some good quality veg and some meat on a plate while everyone else is getting burgers and deep fried calamari, they would look at you and go like,
oh, you're going to be this guy.
Yeah, what's right? Yeah. Come on, man. Seriously? You're going to be that guy right now?
Right,
And I'm not saying, I'm not advocating for a life without balance, but what I am saying is that we need to normalize a baseline of consumption that has, focuses on real foods, drops the ultra processed crap, eliminates, processed sugars, and then play on top of that, right? I'm not saying that you can't enjoy.
It's just a good baseline. You want to be able to have a great baseline.
Yeah, 100%. And culturally, we just need to normalize more of that. The office culture of bringing in the croissants and donuts and the hotel breakfast, right? It's wild.
It is actually kind of wild. Yeah. Like, because when you go to hotels and stuff like that, it's like little box of cereal, or boxes of cereal, whatever, croissants, donuts, scones. And like initially in your mind, you're like, oh, this is amazing. This sounds great. But like, is this really going to like give me the energy throughout the day to do what I got to do? Especially if you're traveling for work, like you need to have a strong mental capacity to do what you got to do for meetings and stuff like that. So
again, food is information, right? So if the first thing that you put into your body in the morning, I mean, people know this a little bit with, and we're addicted to this as well. Like you turn on your phone and you're inundated with whatever news of the day or Instagram, thirst trap that shows up first thing.
It's true.
That's the information that's hitting your brain, and that's going to inform the rest of the actions of your day. So does the food. If you open up the fridge and you pour sugar cereal, right, into your body first thing in the morning, that informs the rest of your day, and it sets you up to just literally be chasing one sugar high after the next, and you're going to chase that down the road until you inevitably will crash come 4 o'clock and you're nodding off at your desk. what would happen if you reinformed your body and started your day with 30 grams of protein in a healthy fat source, right? All of a sudden now you're informing your body to perform. You're informing your body to heal, to reduce inflammation, to promote longevity, to promote a state of mind that by 4 o'clock, you're all of a sudden thriving and you've got another gear, right? And you've done that multiple times throughout the day, right? I think that's the mindset shift that people have to
try to switch to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel about like the carnivore diet?
Yeah. So I think we talked a little bit about extremes when we were working out, right? And so I think there is benefit to exploring extremes in a number of different areas of life. The carnivore diet in particular, I know has some phenomenal benefits to reduce inflammation. It's been, well documented to help a lot of people with autoimmune conditions.
I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard a lot of like scars, like scarring and stuff like that can go down in people.
Oh, cool.
But also those are like little studies that people have done, not a broad research.
There are lots of, I think there's a plethora of health benefits to consuming, a primarily meat diet that, are documented. And there's, people that are a lot smarter than me that, could tell you the biology of how that works. Yeah. But by reducing that inflammation in the body, providing good quality, sources of protein. Now, I'm a very big advocate to say that the thing that is best is the thing that works, or the thing that you will stick to, right? So for me, I've done the carnivore diet.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't do what I do and not try it, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
And for me, it's not long-term sustainable, right? And so I have to, and again, this comes back to conscious consumption. I'm listening to my body. I'm using food as information. For a season, 100%, I think it's a great reset. I use it as a metabolic reset. I love doing, extended fasts and then moving into a period of carnivore diet just to help a bit of a metabolic reset. But then I will reintroduce, complex carbs coming from whole food ingredients, right? So I think for cases where people, are maybe looking for large resets or struggling with high levels of inflammation and stuff, something like the carnivore diet.
You get a ton of energy, I heard too.
Yeah.
I think I heard you also get explosive diarrhea.
The body takes some time to adjust to that much protein.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. It takes some time, but
I heard, but once it switches over, like I heard the first week, as you just said, like the body is so like, what is going on right now? Yeah. But I heard your energy goes up. Obviously, I mean, you're a lot leaner. And your energy source is like apparently your weightlifting, like for that example, like skyrockets.
Yeah. When your body enters that state of ketosis, it relies on that ketogenic or ketone release in the brain, and so a lot of people experience that sort of that high of stepping into that state where there's a lot of energy and a lot of mental clarity. You're also reducing the state of inflammation in the entire body, right? By not consuming, things that often people are sensitive to in some degree with the grains, the ultra processed foods, caffeines, things like that. Yeah. So depending on so when you reduce the body's state of inflammation, all of a sudden the brain is as inflamed as other parts of the body, or can be inflamed along with other parts of the body. And so when we give the brain or the whole body a moment of break to reduce inflammation, you're getting mental clarity through there as well. So again, I think there's space for people to play in the extremes, and for those who are intentional about the consumption of it, they listen to their body and it works. Godspeed. Like, who am I to stand in the way of that? And I think that can apply to a lot of different diet types. Even our good old vegan friends, right? Like there are people that can live on a plant-based diet, and all I advocate for is a conscious connection to what you are putting in your body. If that is all meat or all plants or something in between, just be conscious about it. Have you done your research? Have you listened to your body? Have you found some nuance in terms of how you're going to balance this stuff? Like that's the stuff that matters to me the most, right? How that shows up, whether you're Liver King eating a raw steak every day or whatever, you know.
Well, raw, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't advocate for that. But, that whole situation was crazy though. With him.
Wild.
Yeah. But you enjoy eating the liver too, right?
I do. Yeah. I think it's one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet.
It is.
Yeah.
They're even like trying to capsulize it right now for people to take. Right?
Oh yeah. Lots of great companies.
Is there a difference in like? Is it better to just have the meat as is, or do you get less of the benefits orally from pills? Do you know that?
So I don't know offhand, but my instinct is going to say that anytime you can consume a food in its natural state, the bioavailability will probably be enhanced. If you have to desiccate an organ to a powdered form and then take it in a capsule, again, we go back to what works and what's sustainable. So for everyone to eat raw liver every day, it's probably not going to happen, right?
Are you eating raw liver?
Yeah, 100%.
I've never tried it before.
No? Okay.
I'll try it. Is it good?
The move with raw liver is to soak it a little bit in some maple syrup or some honey, and salt. And you take just a couple ounces, toss it back.
What does it taste like? What's the flavor? What does it taste like? Like just what's one word that
like meaty gum. It's not pleasant. It's
not
at
least
pleasant.
you're honest with it.
I'm not gonna tell you it tastes great, But again, like I think it's a powerhouse superfood.
It definitely is.
But So however people can consume, some organ meats. Also, the cool thing about consuming organ meats is that it promotes a nose to tail consumption of an animal. So, we need to look at, if we're thinking about meat consumption, we have to try to consume all parts of that animal. And there are some amazing, they call them offal or organ meats and others that are not your standard, strip loin and ribeye steaks.
Yeah.
And so I really encourage people that, as they're, thinking about their meat consumption, get creative, right? Look for some odd cuts, go for your hearts and your kidneys and your livers and try some different stuff. It promotes the use of the entire animal.
Yeah. Even my buddy who hunts, he uses everything.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
So like it's always in the beginning, it was always a little bit odd for me because I'm like, well, I've never tried. Like I'm always open to trying it. Yeah. But he's like, no, man, you just do this. You can cook it like here, and it's beautiful. After a bit, you kind of like get used to it. It's not that it's gross. It just I think it's like eating hearts or whatever. It's like getting over that, like you're eating a heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's it's a North American thing though. If you travel anywhere else in the world, man, you realize that we're soft.
It's true.
We like our steaks to come in white styrofoam packages, right? That are perfectly wrapped and whatever. And we dissociate. And I'm going to say this 100 times on this podcast. When we disconnect from our food and we do not consciously consume, we have created a system where I do not want to think about the fact that an animal's had to die to come to my plate to provide me with the energy to be the best version of myself. I don't want to think about that. So we wrap our meat in styrofoam. And we completely dissociate the fact that this comes from an animal. When we re-engineer that process, when we consciously connect with our food and we think about the whole life cycle of what it has taken for food to come to our plate and then serve us, that is conscious connection. That's where we can then use our food as the information we need to go and thrive, right? A great way to do that is to go and consume some organ meats, right? When you have a beef heart sitting in front of you, it's tough not to think about the animal that
I feel like it's just one of these situations that I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm not saying that everyone's got to go to the extreme of eating, organ meats. But it is an interesting connection point, and it's certainly a visceral one to, say, oh yeah, this is a life force that we're consuming, and we have to consume with gratitude, right? We have to consume with a connection to the fact that the reality that life ends for our life to go on. Personally, in my ethics and the way that I consume food, I've that aligns with me, right? And I make that choice, but I do so very consciously, and I consume everything with gratitude when it comes to the meat that I consume, or anything that I consume. But meat, knowing that there's an exchange of life, there's an exchange of energy there.
So before I forget, when you were on the carnivore diet, were you having like no fruit either?
Yeah, I went pure animal
I don't know if I can
products.
have no fruit.
Yeah.
You know, I think I need an apple at least.
Yeah.
Like at least. You know, I think that because I like. Do you like veggies?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your favorite vegetables?
Oh, I'm a big any like good quality complex carbs. So like a sweet potato or a broccoli. I'm a huge. I love broccoli. I don't know. It's probably yeah.
All right.
I love broccoli. Love sweet potato. Love like I had some great rapini the other day.
Okay.
The bitterness of it. I will as long as it's Brussels sprouts, mushrooms.
They don't like
Vegetables that I don't like. Squash maybe. You know when they make weird spaghetti squash?
Yeah,
they kind of make it all stringy and stuff. That's kind of weird. Also, not a big eggplant guy. I know I'm probably gonna get hate for that, but eggplants. I'm not a huge eggplant guy. Like a grilled eggplant. I don't know. I find that a little weird, but
they're low. Do you find that odd?
Yeah.
You have liver. Okay.
I understand the hypocrisy.
Okay.
I understand the hypocrisy. No, I'm down. Like, man, if somebody has prepared something and they put their love into it, and it's
You're
like,
open to it,
oh,
yeah,
dude, I'll eat anything, man. 100%. Yeah.
I would have always wanted to try the carnivore diet, but I think I would have at least like some fruit. You know? I don't know.
Then it's not the carnivore.
I know.
That's not. You can follow a guy like Paul Saladino, who will talk a lot about eating, kind of apex predator food, right? So you're eating what foods does the top of the food chain eat, right? So an apex predator is eating meat. They're also eating fruits that grow high up in the trees, right? That only an apex predator in their environment can access because they're bigger, stronger, whatever.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. If you want to go, the carnivore route, you can do so in a really condensed period of time, maybe 3, 4, 5 days, and just kind of, feel out what that feels for your body to kind of reset without the carb source. And your body will convert, right? It will change over to use fats as the energy source versus carbs, right? That's that whole ketosis process, and to be ketogenic, right? To have your body be fat adaptive rather than carb adaptive, and see fat as its energy source versus a carbohydrate.
Yeah.
But it's
to each his own.
It's what aligns with you, and if you feel called to something, then I say like, hey, it's a fun experiment at the very least.
That's true. So I wanted to go over your food, because you post about your food all the time, and it looks so good. So take me through your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. What on average do you eat?
Yeah. So for me, the goal is always to first and foremost consume single ingredient whole foods as much as possible. From there, I prioritize protein with every meal and make sure that I'm getting somewhere between 30 to 40 to 50 grams of protein in a meal. Once I've sort of completed that on my plate, then I'll supplement in sources of complex carbs and fats. I love to focus on sort of low glycemic fruits to add in. So like blueberries, for example, something that's not going to create a large spike. And beyond that, man, I focus on simplicity and quality, right? The meals that I make, I've got 2 kids at home. I've got a busy life. The meals that I make all happen within 20 minutes, 25 minutes tops. Like if I'm really going in. And I just believe that we've been fed a bit of a lie in terms of the fact that we don't have time to prepare food, right?
Well, at the end of the day, you have time for anything.
Yeah.
You just have to. It's just not a priority.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You have time to watch Netflix episodes, but
yeah,
it's all about what you actually matters to you, right? Yeah. So
I think people have just overcomplicated food in general, right?
And enjoy the process, like cooking and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It's like one of my favorite. You go to any party, where are people hanging out? In the kitchen, right? They're hanging out around the food.
Is there a kitchen?
Sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. The next party you go to, where are people just observe where
I have Christmas party, man. I have a 4-month-old daughter. I don't party no more. This is the party right here.
Christmas, where good things happen around food, right? There's good energy, good energy that happens around food. To sit down with your daughter and with your wife at a dinner table and exchange just a moment together as a family, right?
100%.
That's meaningful. And so yeah, I think to me, I look for the simplicity in how I prepare food, and I want it to be simple, really good quality, whole ingredients that taste good. It's not rocket science. I think people are intimidated by the kitchen a little bit. They don't have to be. Chop up some veggies on a pan,
I think the intimidation thing is a big thing, as you like. I think that even when we work with like a couple of people with our gym and stuff like that, like, oh, I can't cook or whatever, and it's like the intimidation thing's a big thing for sure.
Yep.
And honestly, I suffer from it too. Like, I'm not a good cook, but I can follow like a recipe. Like my buddy Dan, like he can open up a refrigerator and be like, then he cooks up like this beautiful meal.
Yeah.
With me, I'm like, okay, two teaspoons of salt, you know, like I'll follow a recipe to the T.
Yeah.
But like actually cooking like with like passion or whatever, like I don't know. I enjoy cooking. Like I enjoy putting on a little bit of music and cooking and stuff like that. But I don't know.
If people were to chop up, grab as many vegetables as you can hold in 2 hands.
Okay.
Put those down on the counter.
Okay.
Chop those up into bite-sized pieces.
Okay.
Put it on a baking tray and grab one good quality piece of protein, a chicken breast, a steak, sausages, whatever you've got in the freezer, and put that on the same pan and stick all of that in the oven at 425 degrees. Sprinkle a little bit of olive oil and some salt and whatever seasoning you might possibly have.
Yeah.
Throw that in the oven at 425 degrees. You will change your life. You will be a literal superhuman in a week if that's all you ate, right? If you prioritize that type of cooking at home, and I guarantee you that takes less time than it takes for the Uber Eats guy to get to your front door.
And you're also happier about it.
Happier about it. You're healthier about it.
Babe, I'm cooking now.
You're cooking, right? Yeah. You made a meal. You whatever. Instagram about it. I don't care. Like,
doesn't matter. Just do it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know?
Yeah.
That to me is the roadmap.
For sure it is. Does your wife like follow the same kind of like eating habits as you?
Yeah, you can't do this. You can't do this as a you can, but it's so interesting when you start. The dominoes will fall. The people in your life, the family. You know, we sit down and eat dinner and a meal as a family together. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely right. You can't. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there are lots of households where there's conflict about how, one might be eating healthy and one may not or whatever. Sure. But I think it's really important to, I bring my kids in on this. I bring my son in this to help me prepare food and get him involved in that process too. Because that needs to be a family event. It cannot just be a solo.
You have with them too.
No, totally. It's great. It's fun.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, that's true. How did you meet your business partner?
Andrew. Yes. Okay. So.
Oh my God, you're smiling. This has to be a great. Sorry, Andrew.
I love telling this story. I know Andrew because I used to date Andrew's wife. That's the running joke.
It's a running joke, so is it real or is it not real?
It's real. It's real. Her and I had a childhood crush.
I thought you were going to say child. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a child.
We had a childhood crush for about a week and a half, and ever since then we stayed best friends for years. So it really was this moment of I came to this point in the business where I was sourcing meat from these farms, and I would ship out like you get what you get box.
Oh, so you started alone?
Yeah.
And then you grabbed it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I started just on this community basis. Zach's going to the farm. I'm getting some meat. You're going to get a box of whatever. I divided up all the meat as best I could, and you're getting a box. That's it, right? And that was growing. People were asking for more customization, more options, more things. And I called Andrew and said, look, what can you build me a website? He's a digital marketing guy. He's an expert in this field. And I said, can you build me a website that, could help me just show people what's coming in the box? That's it. And it was really Andrew that kind of turned me on to this idea of, a subscription-based e-commerce platform, direct-to-consumer, type of model that we could build. And so very, very grateful and fortunate that, Andrew, stepped in and took that and saw the vision with me.
Yeah.
He works on that, kind of other half of the business, if you will, right? He's my counterpart in that. So incredibly grateful for that.
How do you find working with a business partner? Like, do you guys are smooth? Like, do you guys occasionally argue or debate about things?
There's always debate. There's always back and forth. I think that it's really important, and we base a lot of our business on trust and integrity. And I think for both Andrew and I, we both came from an environment where we said, like, we're not only are we thinking differently about our food, but we're thinking differently about business as well. And so our partnership exists in that way. We operate amazingly as a team, but it's certainly not that it's conflict.
So I wanted to ask you too, because we were talking about a little bit when we were working out about like fatherhood and stuff like that. I know, like, going over your Instagram, it's awesome to see you're very much about fatherhood. So did that come from like your relationship with your parents, or is that something you built on your own? Especially with a business too, like with a business, you're more in a spotlight, right? So do you feel like it's a little bit more of a responsibility? I'm curious, as a new father, like, how do you take it?
The experience of fatherhood for me has not been easy. It's not come easy. It's been earned. I was very lucky to have an amazing father. My father is a titan. And so I had a role model that modeled to me what love looked like and what support looked like. And my father's a beautiful stoic man, right? And just a deep thinker and somebody that, I felt very loved my entire life. And so I'm very, very fortunate in that. My experience as a dad has been a learning curve. It has been a mirror to my own shit, right? It is like, hey, how broken are you? And this little human is mirroring that back. So the moments that I get impatient, the moments that I'm quick to anger, the moments that I'm acting selfishly, all of these things have, fatherhood has been such a teacher in those. And it's a beautiful lesson, right? It has been a beautiful experience and a beautiful lesson. I love my children deeply, deeply, deeply. And so, I think it's a part of my ethos to want to know myself better. And they are a great conduit to that, to knowing myself better and to really parenting myself, right? Like to when I parent myself, I'm parenting them as I'm improving who I am as a man and as an individual. I am improving that for them. So I show up for them as that better version. And I want to model that. Do I do that perfectly? Certainly not. Right. But that in of itself is something that I have to work on, extending grace to myself as a dad and finding where I can balance, work, building a business, building myself, loving and caring for them. It's all such just this beautiful, complex web that has been, I think, one of the most challenging experiences, of my life. And it's, my oldest is 3 years old, so I got a lot of years left to do this.
That's true.
Yeah.
How do you find that balance? Like, how do you balance between owning like a badass company, working out hard, keeping the relationship with your wife, keeping the relationship with your sons? Like, how do you find that? And your friends, you're just your friends aside from that.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Man, you're hitting on some heavy stuff here. Like, I don't know that I always do it well, if I'm being quite honest with you, right? I find myself, I'm a high functioning individual, and I find ways to prioritize the things that make me the best version of myself each and every day. And I have to make choices. I think a lot of this comes down to the choices that I make, right? And so my downtime is intentional downtime. Like when I've got time, I'm going to the gym, right? My kid goes down for a nap and I'm jumping in the car, and I know that I have an hour and 15 minutes before that, little hurricane wakes up again.
Yeah.
And we're back in it, right? And so I'm making very intentional choices about how I use my time. But often, and then work, right? I think there's a level of consumption and obsession that comes from building a business and being in a stage of life where I'm intentionally focused on building something for them and for myself, something that aligns with who I am and a life that I want to live and the person that I want to be. And so, I say that all, with a lot of humility to say that I don't know that I always get that right. And that I'm always seeking a state of balance. But I think at very least I have a level of awareness that serves me in the moments where Life is scrambly. And I think a lot of this comes down to some of the habits too that you instill. And I've spent a lot of years of my life pre-kids developing habits that serve me now, so that when I wake up in the morning and I've only slept 3 hours and I have a business to build and I have, a physical body to support, that I make good choices, right? I don't have to start from scratch and be like, oh, well, what diet am I going to choose, or what gym routine am I going to go to? To me, some of those baseline things are on default, right? Like they happen. It's a habitual response. And I'll commend myself. I worked very hard to create a system and a set of habits that serve me now when life is a bit chaotic, right? And so, achieving that balance for me has started with finding, a baseline of the habits that I show up with each and every day. And then from there, I'm dealing with the input of chaos. Again, in full transparency and humility, I don't always get that right. But it's something that I strive to do, as much as possible. So I think it's necessary. We need to live life in balance.
Yes. Well, it's hard to find that balance, right? It's hard to find because everybody's balance is different.
Yeah.
And especially like as a father, you have so much, I feel like you feel like you have so much responsibility to push a little extra for other people. Yeah. But balance is honestly so important.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you being here. Yeah. I wanted to ask 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, what if you could describe your business in one word, what would it be? One word.
Connection.
I gotta ask, connection. Why?
Connection to the external world around us, to connect with the way that our food arrives on our plates, connection to all the aspects of how that process has unfolded. But most importantly, I think connection to self. So the longer-winded answer would be that Northern Raised is a company that is built to connect people with their personal well-being through what we eat and our food. And that connection point is something that I think goes really deep and internal. And again, it goes back to something that I experienced as an individual, a connection that I experienced with myself, that I was able to heal myself through connecting with something as simple as, what was sitting on my plate. And so, yeah, connection is our word.
Okay. And then the second question is, what does being an alpha mean to you?
I think being an alpha is to be invested in the process of knowing yourself, to have the strength to act in the moments that require strength, and to be vulnerable and live life with humility, to recognize the moments where you're not strong and you're not an alpha in the way that we kind of think about it. And so I think that true strength and a true sign of an alpha is somebody that can live in both of those polarities, live in strength and also live in weakness, and understand that one serves the other and that it all makes up a whole. And the people that embody that the best are the people that I look up to as alphas in life.
Yeah. I love that. Appreciate you being on, man.
Dude.
Okay, so Instagram handles, what can they find you at?
100%. At Zack.Langlois is my personal.
Okay.
Link that.
So if people follow you on your personal?
Please, yeah. I love being able to share the food that I make.
Yeah.
The
delicious food.
The stories that I tell, the experiences I have. Absolutely. So Zack.Langlois is my personal Instagram, and then Northern Raised Meats.
Okay.
Northern Raised Meats. You'll find us through all the socials and whatever. Yeah.
I love it, man. I appreciate you coming on. We had a full day. We had a lot of fun. Okay. We froze a little bit and then we threw some weights up. So I appreciate this drink. I'll definitely try to get him on the podcast. But again, appreciate you, man. You're a great man.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.